All right. That's always have to have that green light lit up when you're speaking. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Chuck McLean. I'm the Chief Public Utility Law Judge here at the Commission. We're here in case number 9742, which is captioned in the matter of the application of TPE MD KE51 LLC for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to construct a 5-megawatt solar photovoltaic generating facility in Kent County, Maryland. We'll start with appearances. Ma'am?
Good morning, Your Honor. Margaret Witherup on behalf of the applicant. Present with me is my assistant, Rafael Benitez.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Sandra McLemore on behalf of the Power Plant Research Program.
Good morning, ma'am.
Morning. Thomas N. Yeager, County Attorney for Kent County on behalf of the County Commissioners for Kent County. And with me is Mr. William Mackey. He is the Director of Planning, Housing, and Zoning for Kent County.
All right. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Your Honor. Brock Miller on behalf of the Office of People's Counsel.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Your Honor. Harrison Scher on behalf of staff.
Good morning. All right. Ms. Witherup.
Good morning, Your Honor. I'd like to go through our exhibits for identification.
Certainly.
Exhibit number 1 is the application for CPCN, which was filed on May 22nd, 2024, under mail log 309815. Sorry, I thought it was on. Okay.
Oh, there. It's definitely on now.
There we go. All right, thank you. Applicant exhibit number number 1 for identification is our application for
Ms. Witherup?
CPCN.
You mean number 2?
I'm sorry, I was doing it because she said it wasn't.
Oh, no.
Wasn't on before.
No, the certificate of publication was number 1.
Oh, okay.
We already admitted it, so 5 should be 1, and then you'll just have to renumber those first 4.
Okay. Okay, applicant exhibit number 2 for identification is our application for CPCN filed on May 22nd, 2024 under mail log 309815. Applicant exhibit number 3 is the environmental review document filed on May 22nd, 2024 under mail log 309815.
All right, that'll be 3 for identification. The first one will be, or the second one, the application will be number 2 for identification. I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor. Applicant exhibit number 4 are the appendices to the environmental review document filed on May 22nd, 2024, also under mail log 309815.
That'll be 4 for identification.
Applicant exhibit number 5 will be the update to the environmental review document appendices, which was filed on June 27, 2024, under mail log 310487.
That'll be 6 or 5 for identification.
Applicant exhibit number 6 is the updated environmental review document filed with the Commission on September 9, 2024, under mail log 312431.
That'll be 6 for identification.
Thank you, Your Honor. Applicant exhibit number 7 is the updated environmental review appendices filed on September 9th, 2024, under mail log 312431.
That'll be 7 for identification.
Applicant exhibit number 8 is the certificates of publication for the first public comment hearing, which was filed with the Commission on September 30th, 2024, under mail log 312597.
All right, that'll be 8 for identification.
Thank you, Your Honor. Applicant exhibit number 9 is the updated decommissioning plan filed with the Commission on January 8th, 2025, under mail log 314706.
That'll be 9 for identification.
Thank you, Your Honor. Applicant exhibit number 10 is the certificates of publication for the second public comment hearing filed with the Commission on February 18th, 2025, under mail log 316007.
That'll be 10 for identification.
Applicant exhibit number 11 is the sign affidavit for the second public comment hearing, which was filed on February 21st, 2025, under mail log 316102.
11 for identification.
Applicant exhibit number 12 is the settlement status update filed on February 28th, 2025, under mail log 316299.
That'll be 12 for identification.
Applicant exhibit 13 is a direct testimony of Francis Uhas filed on September 9th, 2024, sorry, under mail log 312431.
That'll be 13 for identification.
Applicant Exhibit Number 14 is the direct testimony of Heather Hutton, filed on September 9th, 2024, under Mail Log 312431.
That'll be 14 for identification.
Applicant Exhibit 15 is the direct testimony of Bob Malik, also filed September 9th, 2024, under Mail Log 312431.
That'll be 15 for identification.
And applicant Exhibit 16 is the response and rebuttal testimony of Francis Uhas, filed on January 29th, 2025, under Mail Log 315307.
That'll be, excuse me, 16 for identification.
Thank you. And at this point, I would move applicant Exhibits 2 through 5 and 6 through 16 into evidence.
Any objections?
No objection.
No objection.
All right, hearing none, they're admitted.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And with that, our first witness will be Francis Uhas.
Okay. And before Ms. Uhas takes a stand, Mr. Yeager, I don't know how often you get up here. I think this is probably the first time.
I did one hearing by remote or virtual hearing,
Right.
but this is my second hearing.
Sure.
So the first one in person. So
Right.
as you imagine, my practice is primarily in circuit and district
Yeah,
court,
sure.
not-
Yeah, and yeah, we probably do things a little bit differently. Go ahead, please have a seat, ma'am. So typically, how I run the hearing, I run my hearings is, Ms. Withrop will do her direct, and everyone will have an opportunity to cross, and then Ms. Withrop will have an opportunity to redirect, at which time then it'll come up to me to ask questions if I have any. And then I will let the parties ask any follow-up based on the questions I ask. So don't leave I just want to let you know, don't leave a question out there. If you think you want to ask it, just go ahead and do so, okay?
Thank you. And I should know the answer to this question, but I don't. Objections to testimony. If there is an are objections done in these proceedings?
Certainly.
And if so, is it same as in court? You make your
Objection, relevance, ask and answer. Just object. Yeah, feel free to object and give me a basis.
Thank you.
Sure,
I'm
certainly.
not going to object just because I don't like the answer that I hear.
Okay.
But if there's something I find that may be improper, I
No
will-
problem, sir.
Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Just before I get to our first witness, I understand that Mr. Bob Malik is on
He is.
Zoom. He said he was not able to hear.
Okay, all
Can
right.
you just confirm that he's
wait.
on and able to hear?
All right. Mr. Malik, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right.
Excellent. Thank you, Your
Now,
Honor.
can you guys, you can't see him though, right? Is that? There you are.
There we go.
Can you, okay, great.
Yes, thank you.
All right, sure.
All right, so good morning, Ms. Uhas. Please state your full name. And is your microphone on? Push the button.
Francis Uhas.
And what is your position with TPE MD KE51 LLC?
I am the Managing Director of Development for Turning Point Energy and the Project Manager for TPE MD KE51 LLC.
But you can move the mic if that's easier. They're kind of very a little sensitive.
Can you take this up to her? It's just the witness finders. I'd like to direct your attention to what has previously been admitted as applicant exhibit number 13. And
Okay. It's a lot of paper.
yes.
Yes.
And is this the direct testimony that we filed on your behalf in this
Yes.
case? And I'd also like you to take a look at what has previously been admitted as applicant exhibit number 16.
Okay.
And that is your response and rebuttal testimony filed in this case, correct?
Yes.
And were these testimonies prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes.
And if I ask you those same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Do you have any changes or additions you would like to make to your direct and rebuttal testimony?
Since this testimony was submitted, yes, we have updated our decommissioning plan and provided that revised decommissioning plan. We have also included the recently received interconnection study results, as well as the revised PPRP licensing conditions that we received yesterday, and agree to those.
And by the PPRP revised licensing conditions, you're referring to what was filed yesterday and is to be identified as PPRP Exhibit 9?
Yes.
And is the applicant willing to agree to those licensing conditions?
Yes.
All right, thank you. With that, Ms. Uhas is available for cross-examination.
Thank you, ma'am. PPRP?
No, Your Honor, we have no cross.
Mr. Yeager?
Yes, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to direct your attention to your rebuttal testimony.
Okay.
And you state, this is question, explain the project's compliance regarding the priority preservation area. You state that all parcels within the AZD and RCD that are not within the designated growth areas are within the priority preservation area. Do you see that?
Yes. Are you you're talking about the first paragraph?
Yes. Yes. And I realize this, that I have a map that was not pre-filed. I have two maps from the comp plan. One I pre-filed because it was an attachment or an exhibit to Mr. Mackey's testimony. The other was not. So I'd like to use this in my cross-examination and submit this even though I didn't pre-file. So, if I may, can I approach the witness? I don't know. Okay. And then, Ms. Uhas, I'm not doing this to intimidate you or get in your face or anything.
Okay.
I'm just doing this because I want to show you
Sure.
a document. It's just
May I see what you're showing?
sure. I have the two maps here. One of them was attached to Mr. Mackey's. The other one. This is where our comp plan.
Which one was attached to his testimony?
Give me a second. I'm going to tell you. I think it was the one that showed the priority preservation areas. Correct. Yeah.
Map 6. Okay.
This is, map 6 was attached to his testimony. So map 5 is the one that was not.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to. I remade them. I'm sorry about this. I'll give you both of them. You have the one.
Mr. Yeager, your witnesses.
So we need map 6 or map 5.
It's map 5.
I do. So I can give you a copy of map 5, okay? And then I'll go ahead and distribute.
Thank you, sir. All right. We'll mark this for identification as County Exhibit 6.
Thank you.
Or, I'm sorry, County Exhibit 5.
I appreciate the court's patience and indulgence.
Take your time, sir.
I'm going to show you map 5, Kent County Comprehensive Plan. When you were preparing your testimony, did you have occasion to review that map at all?
Yes.
Mr. Yeager, I'm not sure if, is the court reporter picking you? I just want to make.
the other way around with me. Okay. This is map 5 that you're looking at. Did you have occasion to look at that when you were preparing your testimony?
Yes.
And what is that map entitled?
Yeah, I guess, Mr. Yeager, do you need to direct her to certain parts of that, or?
Well, no, the title of them. It's designated growth
Right.
Okay.
areas.
Well,
Yes.
And it's fair to say that this map delineates the growth
Mr.
areas.
Mr. Yeager, could you just return, it's probably, unless you need to point to certain things on the map, it might be better to return to table, sir.
Okay. And let me just I'm going to give her map 6. And did you look at map 6 before you prepared your testimony?
Most likely.
Okay.
Um,
And it's fair to say that map 6 delineates the priority preservation areas.
Yes, it's very tiny.
So if you look at these two maps together, would you agree with me that there are areas of the county that are not within a priority preservation area and are also not within a designated growth area?
Yes.
So if that's the case, you would agree that your testimony or your conclusion is not necessarily accurate when you say all utility scale solar systems outside the growth area will be within the PPA.
With regard to our project specifically.
No, what I'm saying is you're making an argument in your testimony that essentially the county zoning is too restrictive and it doesn't provide for sufficient areas to have projects such as this. That's my take of your testimony. And your conclusion, from what I'm reading this, appears to be land in the county is either in a growth area or it's in a PPA. Is that correct?
It can be designated in a growth area PPA or not.
Okay. So to clarify, you would agree with me that the county has PPAs,
Yes.
it has growth areas, and it has areas that are not designated as one or the other.
Yes.
Okay. And you would agree with me that within certain areas of the county, including the growth area, that solar projects are permitted without size limitation.
Yes.
And did you do an inventory of the acreage available for such systems that are permitted by right without a need for a special exception or size limitation?
I believe Mr. Mackey did that in his letter.
Okay. And you don't dispute the acreage that Mr. Mackey came up with, do you?
No.
And you would agree that there are areas where this site could have been located in the county where there would be no issue as to size limitation.
No, I don't agree with your statement.
You would agree that there is acreage available, that the county has set aside acreage in the county for projects of this type.
Yes.
And at the time that this site was considered, did you look at the county zoning with respect to whether or not this site would be permitted under the county zoning in this location?
Yes.
And I take it you determined that it would not be.
Yes.
And despite that analysis, your company went ahead and leased the land anyway.
Yes.
Would you agree that if this project was limited to 5 acres, that it could be in an AZD district?
Yes.
And you would agree that for projects that are 2 megawatts or less, such projects could be built in nearly 98% of the land in the county.
Could be.
But despite that, your company chose not to limit this project to 5 acres.
There are many other reasons that restrict the placement of projects. So although land is available not in the AZD district, it is not conducive to hosting a community solar project.
Well, one of the things is you'd like to be close to a substation or transmission lines, correct?
Distribution lines.
Distribution lines. And that, essentially, that's a cost factor for you, correct? So if the area that the county has, let's say the county in their zoning finds agriculture to be a preferred use, but also sets aside land for industrial and has industrial zone land. If that industrial zone land that the county has deemed is appropriate and suitable, it's in the comp plan for solar, if that land is farther away from a transmission line, you're going to be looking at the ag land that's closer to the transmission line rather than the industrial zone land that's not, correct?
Technical viability of interconnection is a #1 siting condition.
Correct. It's going to save you money. It's going to cost you, if you're closer to the transmission line, it's going to save you money. It's going to cost you less than if you put it someplace else.
It's technical viability.
Right. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller.
No cross, Your Honor.
Thank you.
None from staff.
Ms. Witherup.
I have no redirect.
All right, thank you. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
To pick up where Mr. Yeager left off, you were using the term technical viability in terms of interconnection. What exactly do you mean by that?
So there has to be capacity on a circuit in order to accept the energy generated by the community solar project.
So is it more than just the pure cost?
Yes.
Okay, so it's capacity, it's cost. Are there other factors that work into the technical viability?
Of the interconnection?
Yes, ma'am.
It's capacity, interconnection design, and all of the technical aspects of that go with it, as well as cost.
All right, thank you. Is there, you've been involved in numerous projects, is that correct?
Yes.
Is there a rule of thumb as to the amount of acreage that's needed, like per megawatt for a project? And I know it varies, but is there an estimate?
We use about 6 acres per megawatt.
All right. Um, On page 9 of the ERD, you reference an amendment to the land use ordinance that limited the size of utility scale solar to 5 acres. Do you recall what the limitations were prior to that amendment, sir? Oh, sir. God,
I don't.
ma'am, okay. Okay. You also note that there was a letter that was received from the adjoining eastern property owners noting their agreement with the 100-foot setback. I did not see that. Is that, can I get a copy of that? I didn't see it in the record. I know it was referenced in as an attachment to the PPRP. I don't need it right this second, but I would like to have it.
We'll
thought we
confirm that,
did.
Your Honor. I believe it was in one of the
was.
appendices, but
Okay.
if not, we will.
Yeah, and it could be my mistake. I know it was referenced a couple times. I just did not see it. Let's see. This is more of a clarification. The burial plot, that's on the southwestern portion of the project, and it's set back from the eastern side of Peacock Corner Road. Is that?
Orient myself.
It's okay.
Yes.
Okay. I was just kind of confused a bit. If you want to look at it, please.
I mean, I know where it is in my mind.
Sure.
The east-west.
Yeah.
So let's see. If this is facing north, the burial plot, yes, is
Okay.
to the southwest.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. I just wanted to make sure it was worded a little funny, but maybe that was just me. On page 35 of the ERD, you reference you discuss the employment and economic impact of the project, and I believe you referenced this figure as well at the public hearing the other night. It said, and I'm looking for anyone following along at home, the second paragraph under that section, last sentence, it says the project will also. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to get there, ma'am?
Yes. ERD.
Page
Exhibit
35.
6.
Exhibit 6.
Yeah, page 35.
Okay.
Second full paragraph under 5.6, last sentence, it states the project will also impact local residential subscribers by providing 5 to 10% savings on their electric bills when compared to Delmarva power rates. How is that figure arrived at, ma'am?
Based on the subscriber organizations, this administrators who handle the subscriptions, they provide that savings calculated based on the subscriber's rate.
Okay.
So
Go ahead.
I'm a subscriber to Community Solar.
Mhm.
Not in DPL's territory, I'm in BGE's territory, but I do get through the subscriber organization that manages my Community Solar subscription. It's delineated on, I see that savings on the bill.
Just so I'm clear, so the subscriber organization is not TPE?
It's, I guess, the subscriptions administrator. I'm probably
Okay.
using the wrong
Okay,
term.
that's fine, but that is not your.
That, and correct.
That's not the applicant in this case?
Correct.
Okay. And the savings is based on what, the number of subscribers?
Typically, it's the rate that the subscriber is paying.
Mhm. And
From-
do you know how that's determined?
I don't.
Okay.
I'll find out.
PPRP's new condition on the road permits, there's a reference to a state highway right-of-way on Maryland 291, which it looks like it's to the north of the project. How, if at all, is that right-of-way going to impact the project?
I don't believe it will impact at all, and thus the reason we agreed to the request.
Where is the right-of-way?
May
We
I
have a
ask
blow
my
up.
colleague to
Well,
point that out?
if it's a better question for Ms. Hutton, I can
Yes,
address
that
it
would be
with her.
great.
Okay, fine. All right. I just have to remember to come back to it. All right. There were some concerns at the second public hearing, ma'am, about the materials that are contained in the panels themselves. And I believe it was, the terminology was toxic materials. And I believe you responded something to the effect that the applicant did not believe the panels were toxic. Did you recall that, ma'am?
I did.
Okay, so, and the panels in this particular project have not been selected yet, is that correct?
Correct. The actual module, although we included a specification sheet as required in our response and our ERD, it is representative of what is likely to be used at the time, but the final panel selection will be determined at time of construction, what's based on availability.
Okay, and so you said the panels, you don't consider them to be toxic. What do you base that on, ma'am?
In general, there have been many studies done, and I did follow up specifically with the gentleman who asked the question. He gave me his card afterwards, and I provided 3 or 4 different resources of corroborating the health and the safety of the panels, that they are not toxic. They do not include toxic components. And the materials that they are made from. And I can share those with you if you'd like.
So the contents of the panels, and I believe he said, he referenced cadmium,
Yes.
maybe lead, but so those are not contained in the panels that the applicant's going to use in this case?
So at this point in time, there is some lead associated with the soldering in the panels, but more and more, and there are many articles relative to this as well, that lead is not even being used for soldering. They're using a different material for soldering that is even safer.
Okay. All right. Are you the right witness to ask decommissioning plan questions?
Try.
Okay,
Yes,
that's
yes.
fair enough. Let me pull it up. On page 28, no, that doesn't seem right. Let me pull it up. No, it can't be page 28.
Exhibit 9.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, I see where I got page 28. It's actually, it says page 28 in the corner, but it's page 6 up top. So on paragraph 7, it's entitled time period to complete decommissioning.
Yes.
It states that if you can't get it done in 6 months, you will be able to request an extension. Do you anticipate that request going to the county, the commission, or both?
I would imagine the beneficiary of the bond, which in this case I believe is the county, although I understand that the Public Service Commission can also hold the bond.
And have you haven't been involved in any decommissioning of projects, have you?
None other than my own rooftop panels on my own roof.
Okay. So fair to say that this would be a little bit different than that?
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that the decommissioning aspect of solar projects are in their infancy, so to speak?
Yes, although there have been some decommissioning done for various reasons.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Exhibit B to the decommissioning plan, it's just more of a curiosity question.
Mm-hmm.
It states on the second, I guess, I'm looking down at the second set of costs. It says mileage, Kent County, Maryland to Lincoln Park, New Jersey round trip. Is that fair to say that the entity that is going to be taking the panels is in Lincoln Park, New Jersey?
That would, at the time that this was done, yes. Subsequently, we have done initial research and actually contact with recycling services
Mm-hmm.
that actually have facilities in North Carolina. If we could update it.
Don't look at the crowd for help.
Yeah.
All right, so, so fair to say that those costs would probably increase.
They could, but New Jersey is just as well.
All right. Can I get you to go to your rebuttal, please, ma'am? On page 4, and you were talking a little bit with Mr. Yeager about the acreage. And I'm looking at line 13. It states, are you there, ma'am? It says additionally, according to the 2018 comprehensive plan, the total land area of the county is 179,840 acres, and the total area in resource lands is approximately 151,350 acres. And if you have Mr. Mackey's chart in front of you, I think it's page 4, where he has the acreage, the various acreages of the zoning districts.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Mackey's testimony.
what exhibit was that?
That would be.
Did I do that?
Not sure who that is. I know you didn't do it. All right, it would be County Exhibit 1.
It's also in our binder as Exhibit 7. The page number at the bottom is TPE 000445. It's the same thing.
Tab 7
Tab 7, yes.
and page,
If you look at the very bottom, the base number is TPE 000445. It was Appendix 6.16 to the ERD.
I'm sorry, tab 7 is a lot of attachments.
Here.
May I approach?
Yeah,
Sure.
please. It's
Tab
yeah. We're,
7. Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go. All right, and you, I'm sorry,
it's okay.
page.
And it starts. It's got the question is how many acres are included in each zoning district, and he has a list of the various zoning districts with acreage.
Yes, in section 2.
Yep. I'm just curious the difference between, and I think I may know the answer. The total resource lands, in my understanding, the resource lands include the agricultural zoning district and the resource conservation district. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. So when I totaled up Mr. Mackey's numbers, I came to 154,796, but you have 151,350.
I would have to go back and look at my notes.
That's fine.
Justify, but happy to do it.
No, that's fine. And I can ask Mr. Mackey as well. My guess is that maybe that delta is consists of the growth areas and possibly land that's too fragmented for development. So, all right, I think that is all I have. Ms. Witherup, do you have any follow-up on my questions, ma'am?
Yes, just briefly, Your Honor.
Sure.
Ms. Uhas, if I could refer you back to your rebuttal testimony, which was applicant Exhibit 16. And lines 14 and 15, are you there yet?
Yes. Yes, the rebuttal testimony.
Yes, correct. And on line 15, you're referencing the total area in resource lands is approximately 151,350 acres. You see that?
Which question are you on?
In your rebuttal testimony, page 4, line 15.
Page 4, line 15. Okay, I see that.
And then parentheses after that, you have page 41. Do you see that?
Yes.
And is that referencing page 41 of the county's comprehensive plan?
Yes, I believe that was the intention.
And I'd like to show you what I will have marked for identification as applicant exhibit 17. And is that a copy of the county's comprehensive plan?
Ms. Wither, do you have copies for everyone? Or
I have one
I
extra
actually,
copy.
I actually have a couple.
I'm
copies.
good. I have Mr. Mackey's.
Gentlemen? No. I mean, if you want them.
Is this the document that you consulted when you were preparing your rebuttal testimony?
Yes.
And does that number 151,350 acres come from page 41 of the comprehensive plan?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Sure. Yeah, and I wasn't questioning the accuracy of the number. I was just curious about the delta, that's all. All right. We'll mark this as applicant exhibit 17 for identification. Did you want to admit that, Ms. Witherow?
Sure, we can admit that.
Any objections?
No objection, Your
No
Honor.
objection.
17 is admitted. All right. All right, is that all, Ms. Witherow?
Yes, but could I have my copy back, please? No. Unless anyone else has questions.
I do have
Okay, well,
questions in light of the court's questions.
sure,
but
let
I'll
me,
defer
go-
to the others
yeah.
first, since I've
I
already
have,
gone.
I have one quick question.
Please.
Ms. Hughes, you had indicated that decommissioning has been done in some places. Are you aware of specifically where those places are, just for information?
No, but we could certainly provide the services, the decommissioning service providers now obviously use those as their references.
Oh, right, all right, thank you. That's okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Yeager?
With respect to decommissioning, it's fair to say that for a project of this type, the lifespan's about roughly 30 years, give or take.
30 to 40 years.
30, 40 years. And these projects did not start to be built 30 to 40 years ago, correct? These projects of this type have come up in more recent years. Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
So is it also fair to say that we really don't have data available to us for decommissioning that's occurred after the lifespan of a project? We may have some projects that were started that might have been aborted early, but we really don't have data for decommissioning of projects that have lasted their full anticipated lifespan of 30 to 40 years. Is that correct?
We don't, correct.
Right. So we're dealing with predictions, what we think is going to happen, but we have a lot of uncertainties because projects have not been around for 30 to 40 years to get to that decommissioning point yet. Correct?
Correct.
Now, how many properties in the county, when I say the county, Kent County, did your firm consider other than this parcel for this project?
I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but I'm sure it was probably in the 40 to 50 site range, 40 to 50
You considered
different
40
parcels.
to 50 other properties. And do you have the information as to what zones they were in? Were they rezoned in the county?
Yes,
Okay. Where were they zoned?
they throughout the county, so I'd have to go back and look at my list.
You mentioned the pathway, or you mentioned the burial plot in response to the judge's question. Is your firm agreeable to establishing a pathway to that burial plot?
Yes,
And is your firm still agreeable to making a donation to the Agricultural Preservation Fund?
yes,
And you would agree, you heard Carla Gerber's testimony at the public hearing at Galena Middle School, or Galena, it used to be a middle school years ago, it's Galena Elementary School now. Okay. And you agree with her calculation as to how that amount came to be?
I understand how she explained it.
Okay, and you don't have any dispute with that, with her calculation and what she came up with?
I don't know that it's for me to dispute.
Okay.
it was her calculation.
Oh.
That's how she explained it.
Fair enough. Okay. Are you familiar with Section 11 of Article 6 of the Kent County zoning ordinance, land use ordinance?
I'm going to object as beyond the scope of the Public Utility Law Judge's questions.
Mr. Yeager?
Well, there were questions about, I think, the comprehensive plan, the land use ordinance. So it is related to the land use ordinance, so I think it's a fair question.
Well, why don't you ask your question, and then I'll.
Have you reviewed Section 11 of Article 6 of the Kent County land use ordinance?
I'm going to object as beyond the scope of.
What's the relevance? I mean, how are you tying it back into the questions I asked, Mr. Yeager?
With all candor, it was a question that I intended to ask in my direct, and I didn't. So I'll leave it with the court.
All right, it's sustained. I appreciate the candor.
Thank you. And just looking at my notes, I believe those are all the questions I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller? Mr.
Nothing.
Scheer?
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You can leave the witness exhibit binder up there. I'm going to retrieve my comprehensive plan. Thank you. Our next witness will be Heather Hutton.
Ma'am? You swear the witness? Did Ms. Uhas get sworn in? Just going back? Oh, okay. All right.
We can go back and.
Yes, Ms. Hutton, can I ask you just to step down
Sure.
very quickly? And that's my fault. Ms. Uhas, will you take the stand?
I didn't pick up on it either, Your Honor. My apologies.
I'm sorry? I've never sworn in. If you want to be, I can swear at you if you like. But, okay, we've never done it before, but.
Good morning. Yes.
Ms. Uhas, I realize that we're kind of doing this backwards a bit. Are all the statements that you provided to the parties and to me truthful to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Do we need to do anything else? Is everyone satisfied? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I apologize.
All right, thank you. Our next witness is Heather Hutton.
Morning.
Good morning, Ms. Hutton.
Good morning.
What is your full name,
Heather Hutton.
and what is your position?
I'm a professional civil engineer with Kimley Horn.
And I'd like to direct your attention to what has been previously admitted as applicant exhibit number 14.
Sorry, one moment.
Take your time.
Yes,
And this is your direct testimony that was filed in this case?
yes.
If I were to ask you the same questions today, would your answers be the same?
I have one correction, which would be question, page 2, lines 1 through 3, discusses the sections that were prepared, either I assisted or supervised in preparing. At the time of this testimony, Kimley Horn was not involved in preparing the decommissioning plan. It was prepared at that time by the applicant. After these testimonies, we did prepare the revised decommissioning plan that was then subsequently filed.
And you were involved in the preparation of that decommissioning plan?
Yes.
And that is the decommissioning plan that is previously admitted as applicant exhibit number 9?
Yes.
And with that addition, are the answers that you provided in this testimony true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes.
And with that, Ms. Hutton is available for cross-examination.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. McLemore?
I have none, Your Honor.
Mr. Yeager?
Ms. Hutton, direct your attention to page 4 of the ERD. Consistency with the zoning and the comprehensive plan. You would agree with me that in this particular zone, projects for solar energy are limited to 5 acres. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
And would you agree with me that there are other areas of the county, in the county zoning, where projects of this type are allowed without size limitation?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that with respect to the size of the project, this particular project is not consistent with the zoning and comprehensive plan?
It is greater than the 5-acre requirement.
Well, that means, would you agree that it's not consistent in that respect with the county's land use ordinance?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir.
Nothing from OPC, Your Honor.
Mr. Scheer?
Nothing from staff.
Ms. Witherup?
Nothing further, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
The only question I had was in relation to the state highway right-of-way
Yes.
on Maryland 291. Can
Yes.
you kind of bring me up to speed on that?
Sure. The project does not propose an entrance to the state highway right-of-way. If I may, can I point to these larger printouts of the site plan that are, or I'll just refer to one that's in this binder.
Yeah, that's fine. That just creates.
Let me get to the correct.
Yeah. Tell me where.
Maggie, can you help me where best to find?
Yes,
the concept site plan?
applicant exhibit 7.
All right.
The
and-
first page is the site plan.
All right, site plan. All right, give me 1 second. Where's my exhibits? Applicant exhibit 7 is updated ERD. Let me pull that up.
And Maggie, can you also point me to the revised conditions that we're referring to here?
What's the attachments, Miss Witherup?
It was ERD appendix 6.01.
601. Oh, okay. And this, okay, comprehensive site plan. All right, or the concept site plan. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just looking for the site plan. I'm looking at this, but this is a different document.
Apologies, are the revised conditions in front of me in this binder?
They are not in that binder, but
Okay.
may I approach the witness, Your Honor? with-
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanted to read through
I'm
that
giving
one
her
more time.
PPRP exhibits 9 and 9A.
Go ahead, whenever you're ready.
Just want to make sure you have everything in
I'm
front of you.
trying to get a better.
On the concept site plan, on the top right corner, there's a vicinity map that zooms out a bit farther from the immediate project area. Are you
Okay,
able to
yeah.
reference that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, go ahead.
So on that vicinity map, there is a road to the north that's labeled as Cypress Road. This would be the state highway that is discussed in these revised conditions. The project at this time does not impact the state highway right-of-way, and we are willing to coordinate with state highway for, delivery access through there and if they have any concerns with
And
timing.
And is the access point, potential access point, the only issue, or?
As far as I'm aware.
Okay. All right. How close is the right-of-way in terms of the limits of the project, if you know?
I don't have that distance offhand.
Right. I think that's all I have, ma'am.
Okay.
Ms. Witherup, do you have any questions based on mine, ma'am?
No, Your Honor, nothing further.
Ms. McLemore?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Yeager?
Ms. Hutton, did you prepare the site plan document? Was that prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes.
And in preparing this document, did you consider Section 11 of Article 6 of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance?
I don't know off the top of my head exactly what that code section is. I don't have that to reference
I can if I
to
can-
say whether or not
Sure.
I've reviewed
I
it.
I have a copy of it, and I'll just give me a second here. I got a lot of papers.
I have a copy of it, sir.
So-
She can.
Okay, thank you.
There you go, ma'am. And this is kind of exhibit. It
I
will
do
be-
know this was pre-filed, yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Or I filed it as an exhibit.
Okay.
Thank you for the reference. Can you repeat the section?
It's titled Section 11, Countywide Standards for Utility Scale Solar Energy Systems, and it's found in Article 6
Yes.
of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance. Did you consider this section when you prepared the site plan?
Yes.
Did you review it? So seeing this now, you're familiar with this?
Yes.
And is it your intent to follow this section, the requirements of this section?
Yes.
And does that entail submittals to the Kent County Planning Commission for site plan approval?
It does. Yes.
And that would be approval for all of the requirements set forth in this section, right? You're not picking and choosing.
Yes. The clarification that I would like to make, if it's allowed, is item D discusses landscape requirements.
Right.
The project is proposing the increased landscape requirements in lieu of the landscape berm at this time.
Would you agree that an evaluation of that or a determination as to whether or not a waiver should be granted would be in the province of the Kent County Planning Commission?
Yes.
And are you prepared on behalf of the applicant to make a presentation before the Kent County Planning Commission for a waiver request?
Yes.
I have no further
All right.
questions.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much, Ms. Hutton. I appreciate it.
I do have a follow-up question.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry,
apologize.
ma'am.
Based on Mr. Yeager's question. Ms. Hutton, you referenced that the applicant is proposing increased tree height in lieu of the berm requirement in the county land use ordinance, section D.
Yes.
Why is the applicant proposing that?
In general, the landscape berms are not the preferred approach from the civil engineering perspective for a number of factors.
What are those factors?
One being that landscape berms cut off the natural drainage patterns that are currently existing on the site. In addition, the installation of a landscape berm requires more earthwork than the project would otherwise need to create or disturb for the installation of the project without berms.
Do you have any other concerns with the installation of a berm around this project?
As I mentioned in my introduction, my background is civil engineering. We do have landscape architects on our team who I worked with in preparation of these plans. While I am not a landscape architect, I do understand that their concern regarding landscape berms can be the survivability of those plants because it can increase the watering requirements and change the natural soil conditions for the installed plants.
So is it the intention of the applicant to request a waiver of that berm requirement?
Yes.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hudson.
All right, thank you. Our next witness is Mr. Bob Malik, who is joining us virtually.
How you doing, sir? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can, Judge.
All right. Great. Can you hear him?
Yes. I do.
Good morning, Mr. Malik. Thank you for your patience and bearing with us today. Please state your full name for the record.
My full name is Babak Malik, but I go by Bob.
And did you provide direct testimony in this case?
Yes.
And that has previously been admitted as applicant exhibit number 15.
Correct.
Was this testimony prepared by you or under your supervision?
Yes.
If I were to ask you those same questions today, would your answers be the same?
Yes, but with one update, my duration of employment with Turning Point Energy is now at 2 years versus 1.5 years provided in the testimony at the time. It was prepared.
Okay, thank you. And with that clarification, do you have any other changes or additions to make to your direct testimony?
No.
Thank you. Mr. Malik is available for cross-examination.
Thank you.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Yeager?
Just court's indulgence, I misplaced
Take your time, sir.
his, just want to do a quick look at his testimony, and I misplaced it. Here it is. I have it right in front of me. Give us 1 second. Mr. Malik, take it that you were involved with the decommissioning plan, is that correct?
Sorry, I can't hear you well. If you could get closer to the
A little
microphone.
closer, sir.
Sure. In looking at your testimony, your direct testimony, you indicated that there were certain aspects of the ERD that you participated in the drafting,
Correct.
and you also participated in the drafting of the decommissioning plan.
Correct.
Have you been involved in the actual decommissioning of any projects that have lasted their full life of roughly 30 to 40 years?
No.
And it's fair to say that these projects have been built fairly recently or are currently being planned and built, so we really don't have data from projects of this type that have had a lifespan of 30 to 40 years.
I wouldn't say that. I've seen a lot of repowering projects where with the renewed, investment tax credit or other incentives, they revamp the project with the newer modules, newer inverters, and that kind of stuff.
Right. I understand that, but what I'm talking about is a project you have on agricultural land. And I've read the reports, and what the argument is that at the end of this project, whether it be 30, 40 years, let's say it runs through its project, or maybe longer if it's renewed, then there's a decommissioning, and the argument being made is that this property would then be suitable for ag land again. Would you agree with that? That has been a premise that's been argued.
I think with proper care, yes. With the proper decommissioning process, yes, it could be.
And my question to you is that we really don't have data from decommissionings of projects that have been there 30, 40 years and then are reclaimed or attempted to be reclaimed to ag land. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Miller?
Nothing from OPC, Your Honor.
Mr. Shear?
Nothing from staff.
Ms. Wither?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Sir, thanks for getting up early and joining us. I appreciate it. I have no questions for you.
Thank you.
Ms. Wither?
That concludes the applicant's case, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McLemore?
Good morning, Your Honor. We have an exhibit list. We'd like to put some exhibits into the record.
Okay.
Have a mark, please. PPRP Exhibit 1 is the direct testimony of Jenny Rogers, and it was filed January 9, 2025, under mail log number 314748. It consists of 27 pages and one appendix.
Will be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 2 is a secretarial letter dated January 6, 2025, mail log number 314748. It consists of one page, and it was filed January 9th, 2025.
Will be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 3 is initial recommended license conditions, also filed on January 9th, 2025, mail log number 314748, and it consists of 10 pages.
Will be so marked.
And PPRP Exhibit 4 is the project assessment report for the Pocomoke. I apologize, Your Honor. I do believe I had another correction too. And PPRP Exhibit 2, that should be dated January 9th, 2025.
Okay, so the secretarial letter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And the project's assessment report is for the TPE MD KE51 application for CPCN to construct a 5-megawatt solar PV facility in Kent County, Maryland. And it was filed January 9th, 2025, mail log number 314748, and it consists of 29 pages.
All right, it'll be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 5 is the project assessment report. Appendix A, it consists of the applicant responses to selected PPRP data request. It was also filed on January 9, 2025, under the mail log number 314748, and it consists of 33 pages.
It'll be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 4 is the PAR Appendix B. It's the environmental justice.
Did you mean 6?
I apologize.
It's okay. Take your time.
PPRP Exhibit 6, PAR Appendix B, Environmental Justice, EJ Screen Report, filed January 9, 2025, mail log number 314748, and it consists of 29 pages.
It'll be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 7, the PAR Appendix C, reference sections of PPRP's website, also filed on January 9, 2025, under mail log number 314748, consisting of 26 pages.
It'll be so marked.
And PPRP Exhibit 8 is the reply testimony of Jenny Rogers, filed January 31st, 2025, consisting of, under mail log number 315310.
It'll be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 9 is the recommended license conditions, filed March 4, 2025, mail log number 316398, and it consists of 10 pages.
It'll be so marked.
PPRP Exhibit 9A is the recommended license conditions, the red line version, also filed March 4, 2025, under mail log number 316398, consisting of 10 pages.
It will be so marked.
If I could move these into evidence at this time, Your Honor.
Any objections?
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
Hearing none, they're admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.
And we have one witness, Ms. Jenny Rogers.
Yes, ma'am.
I do.
Good morning, Ms. Rogers. Could you please state your name and your title?
It's Jenny Rogers, and I'm a Power Plant Site Assessor 2 at the Power Plant Research Program.
Okay, and do you have before you what's been marked as it's PPRP Exhibit 1, which is the initial direct testimony of Jenny Rogers?
I do.
And did you prepare this document, or was it prepared under your direct controller supervision?
Yes, it was.
And if I asked you the same questions, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Has PPRP filed, actually, could you look at PPRP, what's been marked as PPRP Exhibit 8? Entitled Reply Testimony of Jenny Rogers?
Yes.
And with this document, was it prepared by you or under your direct supervision?
Yes, it was.
And if I asked you the same questions, would your answers be the same today?
Yes.
Okay, since your reply testimony, has PPRP filed anything else in the docket?
Yes, we did. Yesterday on March 4th, we filed a revised recommended licensing conditions.
And could you please describe what the revisions were in that document?
Yes, we only revised the revision related to, let me find it. Traffic and road hauling. And that was in response to a request made by the Department of Transportation to put the specific named road in the condition. And that was the only change. Prior to that, we had any county or state road. They wanted to specifically name Cypress Road.
And are you aware why they wanted to name this specific road?
It's been precedent in the past for transportation to name the specific roads, so I guess to eliminate any confusion in that condition. They just responded to us later than usual in this case, which is why we filed revised conditions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rogers. That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Ms. Witherell.
I have no questions.
Mr. Yeager.
Thank you. Ms. Rogers, are you familiar with Section 11 of Article 6 of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance, countywide standards for utility scale solar energy systems?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And is the PPRP in agreement that the applicant should follow such standards?
Yes, as much as they possibly can.
Well, what does that mean, as much as they, but you can either follow them or they don't?
Yes, then I'll revise my answer. Yes, they should follow those standards.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, thank you.
Nothing from OPC, Your Honor.
Staff?
Nothing from staff.
Ms. McLemore, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Good morning, ma'am. How are you? Do you have the license conditions in front of you, ma'am?
I do, the revised
All right.
ones.
Yeah. And well, I guess we can start with where you left off with Ms. McLemore. And that's, I'm looking at page 6,
I have it.
condition number 21. In addition to specifically including Maryland 291 Cypress Road, the B to that section also included reference to the state highway right-of-way.
Yes.
Are you familiar why that was added?
I believe, again, this is MDOT just ensuring that there's coordination with both SHA and, all of these offices, SHA Office of Traffic and Safety Motor Carrier Division, SHA District 2 Utility Engineer, just in case there was an impact to the right-of-way,
Okay.
not that they assume that there is an impact. to the
Sure.
right-of-way.
Based on your PPRP's review of the project, do you think that, do you have an opinion as to if this
I do
state
not.
right-of-way is going to be impacted?
I do not think it will be.
Okay. Do you happen to know how far away it is from the project?
I do not. That's probably a better question for the applicant.
Okay, all right. All right. If I can get you to just turn to the page 1, same document, ma'am.
Are these the license conditions?
Yes, sir.
This be
Yes, sir. I'm
Exhibit
sorry.
Exhibit 9?
Yes.
I want to make sure I'm looking at the right document.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. I'm
thank you.
sorry. In the very first paragraph, applicability of conditions, you reference several filings. Was there a reason that the updated decommissioning plan wasn't referenced in this particular paragraph? I know it's referenced later.
I think because it was referenced later, it can easily be added to that condition.
If I can get you to turn to page 2, final site plan. On B1 there, it says, a description of any substantial revision to the concept site plan from what was filed in the docket on September 19th, 2024. And it's essentially a requirement for the applicant to file in the docket. What do you consider, what does PPRP consider to be a substantial revision from the concept plan to the final plan?
Let's use buffer width as an example. If we went from a 35-foot buffer width to a 50-foot buffer width after the applicant and the county went through county review, that would be a substantial change. Same with a setback from 100 feet to 200 feet. That would be a substantial change. I guess it's not measurable, and that's a problem with the word substantial. I agree.
Kind of know it when you see it? Okay.
Yes, they would know it when they saw it.
All right. Okay. All right. The decommissioning condition, and that's on page 8, number 29. Now, this is, I know PPRP typically has standard conditions that are tweaked for each project. And the decommissioning one has been one that's been changing
Yes.
over the last several cases. Now, in reading this particular condition, I noted that it was different than a condition that was recommended by PPRP in just last week in another case. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do recall that.
Okay. And so everyone's on the same page, I can give everyone a copy, if I can find it. All right. Mr. Shearer, come here. All right. Hand those out. I'm going to show you what I'll have marked as bench exhibit 1. Is a 2-page document that was used just last week, or entered just last week in case number 9736, which is for a community solar project in Carroll County. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And are you familiar with the differences between these two?
On a larger scale, yes, every single change, I probably couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Sure. There are a lot of, I guess, Carroll County specific
Yes, that I would
terminology in 9736. Is that?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. There specifically, one of the requirements was that the applicant be required to have the county essentially approve the decommissioning plan as part of the final site plan. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And that was
specific to Carroll County. And unfortunately, these cases were right on top of each other. So that's why.
understood. Is that a practice that PPRP believes should be uniform or case specific?
I think at this point, case specific.
All There was also a provision in 9736, looking at 26B, if you see that, ma'am.
Yes.
It states, the bond or letter of credit shall contain a liquidated damages provision. And it goes on. But that provision is not in this particular case. And I just wondered if,
That is also specific to Carroll County.
okay. And is it fair to say that that's just a case-by-case
Yes, it is.
basis?
Now, upon assessment in the future, we may decide to put it into other counties' decommissioning plans, but as of this moment, it is a case-by-case decision.
In the 5-year, I guess, review and renewal of the decommissioning bond in the plan, and I know you testified last week, but is it still PPRP's belief that that particular issue should be addressed at an administrative meeting? Is that
Yes.
correct? And that PPRP isn't, I don't want to say involved, but not specified in the condition. It's more left to staff in Kent County. Is that
Correct. I believe the idea is that we would still look at the decommissioning plan, but we would not provide a specific recommendation at the administrative hearing. We may support staff.
All right. I think that's all I have. Miss McLemore. Sorry.
Yes, Your Honor, just a couple.
Sure.
With regard to the decommissioning plan, has it always been filed in the CPCN application case?
No, until year and a half ago, the decommissioning plans were filed after the CPCN was approved and a certain number of days prior to construction. And upon that time, then it was reviewed by PPRP and staff and brought always to administrative hearing.
And could you please tell me if there is any correlation between a conceptual site plan and a decommissioning plan?
The decommissioning plan is based upon the conceptual site plan. So if the conceptual site plan were to change, that would cause cascading changes to the decommissioning plan.
And is it typically, the conceptual site plan that is filed in a case, is that the same site plan as the one 45 days prior to construction?
Not necessarily.
Would it be more or less consistent with the actual construction of the project?
It would be the one that's filed 45 days?
Yes, I apologize.
The one that's filed 45 days prior to construction would be more consistent with what reality on the ground would be, yes.
And so getting back to strike that, Your Honor. That's all. Thank you.
Ms. Witherup?
I have no questions.
Mr. Yeager?
I do have a question. And looking at the Carroll County case, bond or letter of credit for liquidated damages in the event the project is abandoned without decommissioning. I take it that's there because if the developer walks away from the project and before the lifespan is over and doesn't decommission it, there are substantial costs to reclaim the site.
Yes,
And there are likely to be environmental issues as well, correct?
yes,
So therefore, you would agree with me that there are benefits to having a bond or letter of credit for liquidated damages in the event the developer just abandons the property.
there could be, and this part of this decommissioning condition was specific to Carroll County's code.
Because Carroll County apparently has an ordinance that requires this.
Yes,
And so this was put in because Carroll County requires it.
yes,
But you would agree with me, though, that even though, let's say, Kent County doesn't have a specific ordinance to this effect, that something like this would be beneficial from an environmental standpoint.
yes, and as Your Honor has explained, this condition has been evolving over time, and as we see how the counties are reacting to the decommissioning plans as well, we may proceed to evolve our decommissioning condition.
So you would agree that there are benefits to
There
to
could be,
requiring
yes.
this. So this may be something that the PPRP may be putting down as a condition or a recommended condition for all projects in the future.
Possibly. I'm not going to speak for all of PPRP and where we're going with
I
our
understand, but
decommissioning.
that's something you're certainly considering, given the environmental
We would
benefits.
consider it, yes, obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
No
Sure.
questions.
Ms. McLemore, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. And I was going to put in bench exhibit 1 into the record, just so it's clear. Mr. Yeager?
With respect to exhibits, I did prepare an exhibit list, and I filed that under mail logs 316428 and 316429. And our exhibits would first be the direct testimony of William Mackey, the Kent County Planning Director.
It'll be
And with that testimony were two exhibits. The first exhibit with that testimony is the Priority Preservation Area Map, which is map 6. And the second exhibit was the letter from the county commissioners to Francis Uhas, dated February 27, 2020.
All right. We'll mark, I think you, on your exhibit list, you had them marked separately, but okay if we just mark it as
It's-
collectively as exhibit 1?
With the
for
court is
identification?
fine with,
Okay,
fine with me.
great.
Fine with me.
It's okay.
And we also have as an exhibit the countywide standards for utility scale solar energy systems that have been discussed in examination and cross-examination of witnesses today, and they're part of Article 6, Section 11 of the Kent County Land Use Ordinance. And then finally, the
And we'll mark
the
that as
map.
exhibit 2 for identification. Go ahead,
Thank
sir.
you.
I'm sorry, for cutting you off.
Thank you. No, that's fine. And finally, map 5, designated growth areas, which was used in cross-examination of Ms. Uhas.
Right, all right, we'll mark that as County Exhibit 3 for identification, and I believe I initially referred to it as County Exhibit 5 for identification, but just so we're all clear, it's going to be 3, okay?
And I do have one witness today, Mr. William Mackey.
Okay.
So if it's my turn, I would call Mr. Mackey as a witness. Mr. Mackey, could you please state your name and occupation for the record?
My name is William A. Mackey, and I am an urban and regional planner.
And are you the Director of Planning, Housing, and Zoning for Kent County, Maryland?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mackey, did you prepare written testimony in this matter, a document that's part of the exhibit collectively marked as Exhibit 1 in this case?
Yes, sir.
And have you had an opportunity to review your written testimony?
Yes, sir.
Is your written testimony true and correct to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief?
Yes, sir.
If you were to testify here today, would your testimony be essentially the same as what's set forth in your written testimony?
Essentially the same. I might want to make one clarification.
Okay, and what clarification would that be, sir?
During the discussions of this item, it was pointed out that there's a provision in public utilities that would not allow a special exception to be considered for granting a CPCN reviewed case for the zoning district that we're talking about, agricultural zoning district, because the size that's permitted is 5 acres or less. then a special exception could be heard because it wouldn't be a CPCN matter. And I might have wanted to sort of clarify that because I think it's raised issues as a result.
So for projects that are 5 acres or less, they wouldn't go before the Public Service Commission.
Right, because under current technology, it wouldn't exceed the 2 megawatts.
2 megawatts.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything else you wish to add, Mr. Mackey?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Was I supposed to ask him another question?
You're
just wanna
fine.
make sure.
You're just looking at you got a look
I just
on
want to
your
make
face.
sure I didn't miss anything.
No,
I think I
no.
listened to the litany of the other attorneys
No,
here
no,
about him
you're fine, sir.
verifying and.
You're fine. Any
Right, so I wanna make
objections
sure I
to County Exhibits 1 through 3?
No objection, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. they're
No
admitted.
objection.
All right. Ms. Withrop.
Good morning, Mr. Mackey.
Good morning.
I'd like you to direct your attention to, I guess, the first page of your actual testimony after the cover page. The pages aren't numbered, but it's the last question on that first page. What is the purpose of your testimony? And the second line, you indicate that the application is not consistent with the Kent County Comprehensive Plan and the zoning of Kent County, and that the applicant has not attempted to resolve the issues raised by that inconsistency. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that was your testimony?
Yes.
And I'd like to direct your attention to what was filed with your direct testimony as Exhibit B, which is the letter from the County Commissioners of Kent County to Ms. Frances Uhas, dated February 27, 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could look on the first page of that letter, I'd like to direct your attention to a paragraph numbered 1 under the heading Consistency with the Kent County 2018 Comprehensive Plan. Do you see that?
Yes.
And on the 5th line down, you indicate that one of the aspects of the project is that it includes preserving cultural artifacts by cordoning off a potential on-site burial plot. Do you see that?
Yes.
Would you agree that that feature does align with the goals of the Kent County's 2018 Comprehensive Plan?
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay. And on that same line, towards the end of that line, you indicate that the project includes environmental benefits derived from increased access to renewable energy, conserving existing woodlands, establishing a pollinator-friendly ground cover, and sediment control and stormwater management through environmental design. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree that that feature does align with the goals of the Kent County 2018 Comprehensive Plan?
Generally speaking, yes.
And continuing in that same paragraph, you also indicate that the project includes economic benefits through tax revenues and localized employment during phases of development and construction. Do you see that?
Yes.
Would you agree that that feature does align with the goals of the Kent County's 2018 Comprehensive Plan?
Generally speaking, yes.
And continuing in that same paragraph, you also indicate that the project includes societal benefits as the project is part of the community solar program, which provides savings to subscribers with low to moderate incomes. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree that that feature of the project does align with the goals of the Kent County 2018 Comprehensive Plan?
Generally speaking, yes.
The counties, are you familiar with the county's comprehensive plan?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree that the plan includes Maryland's 12 planning visions as part of the county's comprehensive plan?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you agree that one of those visions is quality of life and sustainability? And it indicates that high quality of life is achieved through universal stewardship of the land, water, and air, resulting in sustainable communities and protection of the environment.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you also agree that economic development is one of the 12 planning visions incorporated into the county's comprehensive plan?
Yes, ma'am.
And environmental protection is also one of the visions included in the county's comprehensive plan.
Yes, ma'am.
And also resource conservation is also one of those planning visions.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you also agree that part of the county's comprehensive plan includes, with respect to the environment, that the county seeks to maintain and improve natural resources through the practice of sustainability in its development regulations and policies and its own facilities and operations?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you also agree that the comprehensive plan includes reference to the county encouraging the use of alternative energy sources such as solar, wind, and biomass?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this project is a community solar project?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that's different from a larger utility scale project such as the Morgneck project?
Yes, ma'am.
And one of the differences between community solar project and utility scale project is that community solar is intended to provide more direct benefits to subscribers and particularly low and moderate income users, correct?
That's my understanding.
Let me direct your attention now to the same document, but the last page of the commissioner's letter to Ms. Francis Uhas. Under heading number 3, which are suggestions for improving or modifying the application.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you see that?
I do.
And in the first full paragraph under that heading, the county is suggesting that the project include the installation of a vegetative buffer that will encircle the perimeter fencing of the solar array. You see that?
I want to be able to, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And is that referring to the addition of a vegetative buffer along the southern perimeter of the project?
Based on this language, I would assume it's for the entire perimeter.
Okay.
But I'm not looking at the site plan. So.
Do you know if the project originally included a proposed vegetative buffer around the entire perimeter of the project, or was it just part of the perimeter of the project?
I don't know. There's a reviewer who handles these things, and I would ask that reviewer myself.
Okay. If I were to represent to you that the original project did not include a vegetative buffer around the entire perimeter, would you have any reason to dispute that?
No.
And if I were to represent to you that the original project did not include a vegetative buffer along the southern perimeter of the project because the adjacent land is currently forested, would you have any reason to dispute that?
My understanding is that the forested lands may count as part of the buffer if they are deed restricted, I believe.
And the recommendation here was that the applicant include the vegetative buffer around the entire perimeter of the project, correct?
Yes, and I believe that's due to the fact that the forested land may not be deeded.
And is it your understanding that the applicant agreed to do that?
I'm not able to answer that. But my understanding is, reviewing with staff yesterday, that you all met the requests of the county in these areas.
Thank you. In the next paragraph on that same page, the letter indicates that the presumed historical family burial area has been excluded from the area for the proposed perimeter fence. Do you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that actually a suggestion of the county to exclude the burial area from the project?
It's my understanding it was, yes.
And is it your understanding that the applicant agreed to do that and change their design in response to the county's request?
Yes, ma'am.
In fact, later down in that paragraph, It indicates that the county is grateful for the applicant's willingness to provide access and would like to request that a pathway through the vegetative buffer to the burial site be included in plans submitted to provide the public access, and that interpretive signage be installed at the entrance to the path, and that the burial area be made tidy and attractive. Do you see that?
I do.
Is it your understanding that the applicant has agreed to comply with that request?
I don't know. I would have to look at the site plan.
And continuing on that same page, the third paragraph indicates that the county is requesting a donation of $52,500 to its agricultural preservation fund for use in purchasing agricultural preservation easements. Do you see that?
I do.
Is it your understanding that the applicant is willing to do that?
I believe so.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. McLemore.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Miller.
No questions, OPC, Your Honor.
Mr. Shear.
No questions.
I do.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mackey, I'd like to direct your attention to the second page of the letter.
Yes,
to the
sir.
County Commissioners. Specifically, the second paragraph, which I guess is the first full paragraph of that.
Yes, sir.
It states that consistency with the county's 2018 comprehensive plan is therefore not fully achieved. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain that?
Yes. From my point of view, the land use ordinance is a tool that is implemented by and must be consistent with the comprehensive plan. So generally speaking, if a project is not consistent with the land use plan, then it cannot, in general, be consistent with our comprehensive plan. And I believe previous testimony has agreed that that is indeed the case, that there are portions of the land use ordinance that this project would not be consistent with, specifically based on the size of the project being larger than the size allowed in the zoning district. So by nature of the relationship between the comprehensive plan and the land use ordinance, I would say that it would be inconsistent with both.
When the county considered areas for solar, how did that come about?
There was a task force created in 2010. They spent, I wasn't with the county at the time, I believe it was approximately 2 years reviewing this, doing research. There were experts on the panel, and they created a white paper. That white paper had very specific recommendations for changes to the land use ordinance to introduce this use. I believe it was not part of the land use ordinance at that time, although I can't say that with perfect knowledge, but this was a new thing coming, and this task force was put together. They created a white paper, and I believe, without exception, there may be some small details that those recommendations from that panel were adopted into the land use ordinance by the Board of County Commissioners shortly thereafter, somewhere in the early, 2012, something like that.
Now, with respect to the comprehensive plan and the land use ordinances, already on the record that this property is zoned ag, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And is ag a preferred land use in Kent County?
Yes, sir.
And is that consistent with the comprehensive plan to promote agriculture?
Yes, sir.
It's fair to say Kent County has a long history with agriculture.
Yes, sir. We've won an award for it as well.
Yes. It has a lot of prime farmland.
Yes, sir.
And you would agree with me that even though there are intents to return land to farmland 30, 40 years from now when decommissioning occurs, there are a lot of variables and there's not data available to us, so we really don't know if this property would be suitable for ag land again after decommissioning, do we?
I would not know. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mack.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Appreciate you being here. I'm going to start at the end of your testimony. Page 5, the very last sentence, sir.
Yes.
It states, I am also incorporating into my testimony by reference the county's response to all data requests in this matter. Do you know if those data responses are in the record anywhere?
I do not know.
Okay.
I served those on the parties, but I believe that I did not file those data requests with the Public Service Commission. I did make a copy of them, so I do have them
Great.
here, and again, the court's indulgence.
Yep, sure, take
with-
your time. I just
with
wanted to
the
make
IAS.
sure I wasn't missing something.
Sometimes I feel like what I went through about 35 years ago when I started practicing law with this. But I do have the data request responses.
Thank you.
And I believe as an attachment to that, there was a memorandum. I just want to check. From planner Mark Carper. Is that Macklemore? Is that correct with your recollection? Did you receive this with that? Sure.
OPC has it.
I'm sure.
I'm sorry?
We have it, Your Honor. OPC
Okay.
has it.
Was there a memorandum
Yes,
filed
sir,
with
there
that? There, that's what I believe, so. If I may approach.
Please.
This was,
Can I take a quick look at it?
sure, yeah.
They only have one DR.
And again, my apologies for not pre-filing that.
That's fine.
Kind of the 11th hour realized that when I served that, it wasn't.
It's not a problem, sir. I just wanted to make sure it was somewhere in the record. If you start referencing it in a brief or something, I wanted to make sure.
August 28th, roughly. Maybe 29th. It was in August, late August.
And if the parties need time, we can defer this and we can take a break if need be.
Could we please, Your Honor?
Sure, sure. Why don't we finish up with Mr. Mackey and we'll go back to these DRs, or do you want to take it now?
It's up to you, Your Honor.
Well, you know what? It's 10 of 12. Why don't we just take a brief recess? We'll come back at 5 after.
Is it possible to get copies made? Is there any way to get?
That's what I was
I
going
can
to
also
suggest.
email Kinsey. I mean, I have it right now.
Do you need this, or can you just print them off of what you got? Okay. Appreciate the court's indulgence. I remember about 35 years ago, if I was in court as a young lawyer and didn't have something ready and needed extra time, the courts typically weren't as patient. And you probably remember those days. They weren't as patient as they are now. I think every generation of lawyers probably thinks the ones after them had it easier than what they had. Mhm. I remember I emailed it to you
Okay.
because I asked you I think I asked you what should I do with them, and you said email them out to me. It was August 28th or 29th.
Okay, I'm just putting those here. Oh, there it is, okay.
Find them?
Yeah.
Yeah, we might change our minds and give it back to one person, but I think it's just a lot to keep track of, especially if there's slightly different questions. I looked at it and it's pretty straightforward. Yeah. So we might change our mind, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys can make, yeah, 2:30? I just saw that Heather declined it.
Thank you very much for taking care of that.
I'll work with you. So you're telling the conference room. That's, you have like five declines in accepts in here.
Okay, we need a. After the crazy part?
Yeah.
After like 3 weeks, then it'll settle down, right?
Well, and I'm not that much further in there, but I also have a
Pretty much it, right?
busy,
Staff has one.
long day. I was like, I'm all.
Yeah, I'm
And
not
that's
gonna,
just, yeah, it's just about the,
yeah, I'm not gonna ask them any questions. I think everybody knows the county's position on it.
I think something got mixed in, which is, and I was like, oh, that's the same day as, and I was like, fine.
Yeah. That's my. One time, I was arguing case and the judge, she knew me pretty well. I guess, Mr. Yeager, you can talk longer if you want, but I just want to let you know, the ducks are in the blind. I understand, Your Honor. I sat down. When he talked to me, I was really with you. I figured that out.
All right, we're back on the record in case number 9742. All right. Mr. Yeager, you want to tell me what I'm looking at here, please?
Sure. Your Honor, this is the response to the data requests that were propounded by the PPRP to the county. And as an attachment to the data request was a memorandum from Mr. Mackey to me. And as noted on the memorandum, it was substantially prepared by Mr. Mark Harper of the Kent County Planning Department.
All right. Why don't we mark these for identification collectively as County Exhibit 4. Is there any objections to these documents?
No objection.
All right. County 4 is admitted. Appreciate everyone doing that. All right, Mr. Mackey, welcome back, sir.
Thank you. Yes,
All
Your
right.
Honor.
Can I get you to go to page 2 of your testimony, sir?
Yes, sir.
And on the second Q&A, about halfway down, there's a sentence that starts, it is a goal of the PPA that 80% of the designated area be protected through easements or zoning. And the designated area is what, sir?
Sorry, I'm going to have to find that.
No, oh, you're, I'm sorry, I thought you were there, sir.
I thought I was too. So it's a goal of
The Q&A starts, is the proposed TPE MD KE51, you guys got to do something
Thank
about
you.
this.
Yes.
This name, project's location within a priority preservation area consistent with the county's comprehensive plan.
Yes, sir.
And then it looks like it's about 5 lines down.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's the goal of the PPA that 80% of the designated area be protected. What is the designated area, sir?
You need the map?
Yeah, I believe there's an exhibit. I believe it's called page.
I believe that's Exhibit 6, or it's Map 6.
Okay. I think that's attached to your testimony, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
So I believe that the 80% is 80% of the PPA.
Okay, 80%
Yes,
of the
sir.
PPA.
Mhm.
All right, so where does the county stand in terms of meeting that 80%?
We're about at 50.
50.
50% of the 80%.
Okay, so if you're, is that 50% being achieved through easements and like conservation easements? Is that?
Yes, and primarily through the MALP program,
I'm sorry?
the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So when you say protecting it through easements or zoning, it's not so much, it's been labeled agricultural or resource, is it resource conservation in the PPA. That's not technically protected. Is that fair to say?
Well, the PPA is comprised of all that is zoned AZD and RCD minus properties that have already been developed.
Right.
So it's sort of in tandem, I guess. But
Right. So I guess I was.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, sir. It's just the way I was looking at that, it seems like there's a very large portion of the county that is already in that designated area.
Yes, sir.
But I guess technically it's not protected by the zoning yet?
Right.
Okay, all right, that's kind of just what I was going for. On your next page 4, sir, where you have the chart or list of the
Yes.
various acres, and I think you may have been jumping ahead to me or giving me an answer here. So the agricultural zoning district and the resource conservation district make up approximately 155,000. I'm rounding up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and there was a reference to the comprehensive plan that had a figure of 151,000 acres. Do you recall that, sir?
I do.
And I'm just wondering, the delta, are those areas that are targeted for growth and/or areas that are too fragmented to be certainly
Right. I don't have my comprehensive
It's
plan
okay.
in front of me.
Oh,
but
if I may
I
approach,
have-
I can I can certainly give a general explanation if that's sufficient.
Here, I'll show you what's been marked
Okay.
as applicant exhibit 17, and it's been admitted. And it's page 41
Okay.
of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That answers, if that helps you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just curious about the delta.
Right. So this document was prepared in 2018, and my understanding is we have more accurate information through our GIS system. So my numbers are currently generated by our GIS,
Okay.
and that is what makes the difference.
All right, fair enough. All right. So I was wrong on that. All right. For the 5-acre limitation in the agricultural zoning for district for these types of projects, that's a hard cap. You can't apply for a variance to that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. In relation to the donation the applicant has agreed to make, can you tell me how that was determined? They discussed it a little bit at the second public hearing, sir.
Right. I know our deputy director spoke to that. So I can't speak as closely as she can, but I can give an overarching picture. So there are provisions under COMAR that the state of Maryland utilizes to create the value for purchases of ag easements for the Maryland Agricultural Land Preservation Foundation. So that same process is used. So essentially it would be the same number that if the state were purchasing the development rights off of that land, that's what they would pay.
Okay. And it's based on the size of the project or how
Soil
many
types.
acres they're taking up?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that used anytime, I guess, agricultural land or resource conservation land is, I guess, developed? Is that?
It's used when they're placed in easement under the state where they can no longer be developed. So that's what the farmer is paid to surrender those development rights.
Okay. So, and okay, so, yeah, maybe it's my I didn't phrase that correctly. So this is utilized, in this case, the county's asking for that donation, correct?
Right.
But if I was just a farmer, I could come to the county and say, I want to put my land into a conservation easement, is that?
Yes. The program we would utilize is the MALP program.
Same one, okay.
Right.
All right.
So then this formula would be the same one
Okay.
utilized. There are other preservation programs
Sure.
not by the county,
Mhm.
and they accept donations and do other systems.
Okay. And that funding would go to preserve, try and meet that 80% that the county's looking for? Okay. think that's all I have, sir, but don't go away. Mr. Seegers, do you have anything else?
Jaeger.
Jaeger. I'm sorry, sir. That explains your look. My apologies.
Just clarification, the MOUth program,
Yes.
that's actually a state program, but the county is involved in evaluating properties for suitability for the MOUth program.
Yes, sir.
But and recommendations are made, but the ultimate decision is made by the state of Maryland. Is that correct?
To actually spend the money, yes, sir. They make the purchase.
That's all. I have.
Okay. Ms. Witherup?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions.
All right. Mr. Mackey, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Is that all? Is that your case, sir?
That would be my case.
All right. Mr. Miller?
OPC has no witnesses.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Scheer?
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff has one exhibit. It's the direct testimony of Latanja Bunch, which was filed on January 9th, 2025 under mail log number 314767. I'd like that marked as Staff Exhibit 1.
It'll be so marked.
And at this time, I'd like to call Latanja Bunch to the stand.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Can you please state your name and business address, Ms. Bunch? Thank you. And by whom are you employed? Do you have with you documents entitled The Direct Testimony of Latanja Bunch, consisting of 9 pages of testimony and 2 exhibits? And had these documents been pre-filed in this case? Were these documents prepared by you, prepared under your supervision? Do you have any additions, deletions, or changes that you'd like to make to these documents at this time? Your Honor, at this time, I ask that Staff Exhibit 1 be moved into evidence.
All right. Any objections?
No objections.
No
objections.
objection.
Staff one's admitted.
Thank you, and the witness is available for cross.
Ms. Witherup?
I have no questions.
Ms. McLemore? Mr. Yeager?
I note on your testimony, page 9, recommendations, you say, adopt any additional conditions proposed by other state agencies having jurisdiction in this proceeding? Would that also include conditions proposed by county agencies, or county government?
It was off. Thank you.
Did you consider any of the county conditions, proposals when
Well,
you put this together?
Although I did review the county, my duty is to make sure that this project doesn't negatively affect the grid and the cost will not be borne by the ratepayers. So those are my primary duties here.
So in making this recommendation, you did not consider the county zoning ordinance, or land use ordinance?
That's correct.
And you did not consider the matters such as a donation to an agricultural preservation fund, and you also did not consider the matters such as the pathway to the burial plot, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions from OPC, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
The applicant has a very brief redirect for Ms. Frances Uhas. Good afternoon, Ms. Uhas.
Good afternoon.
You're still under oath from this morning.
Understood.
Did the applicant make changes to the project from what was originally proposed based on your meetings with county representatives?
Yes.
And what were those changes?
The main change was the request for the landscaping screening on the southern portion of the property.
And why was that not proposed initially?
Because there's an existing forested buffer to the south of that property that would screen anyone from the neighboring property.
So you added a vegetative buffer along that perimeter in response to the county's request?
Yes.
And what other changes did you make in response to the county's request?
We agreed to provide a path to the burial site and add a placard out of respect for the potential remains that may be there. As well as, of course, we agreed to the donation that they requested for the agricultural preservation program.
Thank you. And out of the 40 or 50 sites that you looked at in the county, why did you select this site?
It met all of the criteria, of the many criteria that you need to evaluate when looking for a parcel to accommodate a community solar project. So
what are those criteria?
Right. So obviously, one of the things that we talked about before was interconnection viability, both technical and cost, as well as site orientation, configuration, relative to other neighbors and neighboring properties. Environmental constraints we take seriously with regard to wetlands, watersheds, floodplains, and so that eliminates a lot of those other properties that we look at, and obviously a landowner who's interested in hosting a community solar project.
All right, thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. McLemore?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Yeager?
No questions.
No questions, Your Honor.
No questions.
That's it for the applicant, Your Honor.
Nothing further for PPRB.
Nothing other than argument.
Nothing further.
My apologies. The letter from the property owner on the eastern side, I believe. Can you either point me to where it is in the record, or?
I haven't been able to find it in the record.
Okay.
If it's not in the record, we'd be happy to submit it.
Please do so. Okay.
It was
And-
in response to data requests.
Yes, it was in response to a PPR data request, but it wasn't attached to PPRP's filing.
If you could, I can look real quick if you want me to. It should be in our appendix. It may be in our appendix.
Yeah, it may be in there. I didn't see it, but please go ahead. And Ms. Witherup, also, can you provide some information on that right-of-way, the specific location and some distances to where the right-of-way is in terms of the project, please?
The Cypress Road?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, the one that was referenced in PPRP's condition.
Okay.
Thank you, and their new condition. Well, good. At least it's not me. All right, so. One of the two parties can provide that letter.
Okay.
All right, briefing. Any thoughts on how much time we need? One brief, two briefs? Sorry. All right. All right, briefing. Do we need one brief, two briefs? What are the parties' preferences?
I think the applicant would like the opportunity to respond to the counties. I don't think the issues are terribly complicated, so I would suggest we could have initial briefs in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then one round of rebuttal briefs in 2 weeks after that.
Okay. Does that work? I don't want to squeeze anyone.
I just want to take a look at my calendar.
Sure, take your time, sir.
What I would request, I'm fine conceptually with 2 briefs, but perhaps we could make it to the end of that week. So 2 weeks from today would be the 19th. Could we have the deadline on the 21st?
Absolutely.
That's fine.
And would you like a follow-up brief? Is a week to reply? Is that sufficient, sir? That'd be the 28th?
Yeah,
We're fine with that.
I could do that.
Okay. Excellent. All right, I will get a notice out just so everyone's on the same page and there's no misunderstandings on the briefing schedule. Anything else before we leave today?
Nothing further. Thank you,
All right.
Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time today, and be careful going home. I know that we're supposed to get some pretty bad weather here, so. All right, with that, we're off the record.
Thank you.
Yes. The letter and the.
That was a very,
Yes. I was kind of hoping we could do